is Ohio State the best team in college football? Justin Fields, over 2,300 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, 1 interception. J.K. Dobbins, over 1,400 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns. Chris Olave, 10 touchdowns. Defense, top 10 in total score, passing yards, rushing yards, and yards per play. Offense, top 10, total score, rushing yards, and yards per play. So in your mind, now that you've seen them face their big challenge, everybody was waiting for, Penn State.
Well, there's certainly an argument to be made there, but I'd argue right now, actually, that their big challenge comes this week when they face Michigan. I think they've looked incredible this year. It's a lot better than I expected them to look. I wasn't expecting them to be anywhere near the top 4, to be honest with you, at the beginning of the year. Justin Field has been great. Chase Young's been dominant. They're definitely one of the top teams. I think anybody can make a case for LSU, for Ohio State, or Clemson, really, to be honest with you. I mean, last year, I don't want to say they're unbeatable. Obviously, that was kind of the way we raised the initial segment was, are they unbeatable? And I would say, no, they're not unbeatable. I mean, I think Clemson can beat them. Everybody said Alabama was unbeatable last year, and look how that worked out for them, right? So, I think the fact that, they're in the Big Ten, they're not used to facing a bunch of, juggernaut offenses over there. I think that kind of helps make the case against them if you're trying to make one. But again, they've dominated everybody they've played, so they deserve to be where they are. Heck, they may deserve to be number 1, depending on how you look at it, I guess. I just don't think anybody they've played has really been able to match their speed and athleticism. That's something Clemson can do a little better than those other teams for sure. So are they one of the best teams in the country? Absolutely. Are they beatable? Absolutely also.
We got a little bit more insight on what Ohio State brings to the table. There's a few things that I am a little bit worried about. I think they do have some weapons on the outside with wide receivers, especially Chris Olave. I mean, he's a great wide receiver. I think anybody in the nation would like to have him on their team, especially coming to a little short, stocky guy, 5'10", J.K. Dobbins is just tearing it up. I think there's only one better running back in the nation, and that is Travis Etienne. So Dobbins, I think, somebody that scares me for sure. He's somebody who can get to the outside and just tear you up. And from what I noticed in the beginning couple of quarters for Ohio State, Penn State, it seemed like that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to just run Dobbins to the outside off tackle, to the left, to the right, and he really didn't get stopped much at all. But I feel like that I'm confident in what Clemson can do, specifically because of a lot of things that people have been talking about, and that is the second question, is Justin Fields using cheat codes? Well, the question behind that is, the answer behind that, or the stat behind that, is that Ohio State is converting 58% on third down, best in the country and best in the FBS in a decade. So 10 years, nobody's better on converting third down. Well, I wanted to learn more about this, so I watched the Ohio State-Penn State game, and I'm seeing that they usually, what they'll do, they'll come out in 4 wide, 5 wide, and what do you think happens? The offensive line kind of spreads out the defensive line, and Justin Fields runs the ball. It's almost like clockwork. It doesn't matter what yardage it is. 15, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 11, 4th and 5, 3rd and 2. Every time I saw where a critical situation where they had to get the first down, they had to get a couple of yards, what happened? Justin Fields went for the first down. And again, Penn State fell right into the trap, over pursuing to the outside, blitzing a linebacker to the middle and not letting him spy. Linebacker supposed to be in a spy, gets too anxious and starts blitzing too soon. Yep. Guess what happens? Burns him up. Now, Ohio State has done this really well for the entire season. Will they be able to do it against Brent Venables? Well, earlier on in his career, I would say no. I think Brent Venables kind of had some struggles against a running quarterback. I think Brent Venables had some struggles against figuring out how to stop scrambling quarterbacks, even if they weren't running quarterbacks. But now, the way Brent Venables is, and the fact that you've got examples of Frazier from Auburn, you've got examples of Lamar Jackson not being able to win a game against Clemson, even though they weren't necessarily completely contained. I don't think you can contain completely an elite player like Dobbins or Fields.
Right.
But I think that they were stopped just enough and bend, don't break kind of thing. And I think, if anything, this defense matches up great with that kind of quarterback, because you got Isaiah Simmons who can hunt down anyone, and he's patient because he's got experience. So I'm leaning more towards Isaiah Simmons on that. Now, last question is, can Clemson stop Chase Young? and keep him off of Trevor Lawrence. Now, Chase Young, as you know, he just passed the Ohio State record, 16 and a half sacks this year alone, which is crazy to say. But he is definitely a beast. You can't deny that. Even if you're watching it with orange cover glasses, he is an amazing player to watch. I'd love to have him on the defensive line, even though I think this 2020 class is going to have some really stout defensive linemen. We know that. We've covered them. So I don't think Clemson's hurting in that realm. And I think every time Brent Venables is asked about him, I'm sure he chuckles a little bit because he's like, Xavier Thomas, come on. I mean, I know what an elite defensive end looks like. I got one.
Yep.
And so, but more than likely, he's going to be on that right-hand side. He's going to be going hard on third down. Will Akram and Cervenka be able to hold him back?
Well, look, there's a difference between stopping somebody and slowing them down. I don't think you're ever going to stop a player like that. He's just too good. Man, he completely dominated Penn State this past weekend for sure. But I think they can slow him down. As a matter of fact, not only can I think they can slow him down, is I think they can, use some play calling to kind of negate that speed rush. You run some screens, you run some delayed screens, you run some things like that, little short passes over the middle, get the ball out fast, that kind of thing. Now, in fairness, that's something Clemson hasn't done a lot of this year. I think they're going to have to do that here in the near future, not only against South Carolina, who I think is a little vulnerable there, which we'll talk a little more about later, but I think they'll have to do that against some of the better teams they see in the playoff, assuming, obviously they get to the playoffs, they win the championship and everything like that. So, it's one of those things where you just try to do your best to slow a player like that down. He's just too dominant to stop completely.
Got to figure out how to work around him. Going to have to do double teams. That was one thing that Penn State didn't do. Third down in their own end zone, didn't double team him. I mean, you got to do that in that situation. And guess what happened? He got his 16th and a half sack and broke the record. I mean, we don't need any FBS unbreakable records happening in the playoffs against Clemson. That's for sure. So, but I think Raekwon Davis and other big-time defensive linemen that have come up from Alabama against Clemson have been stopped. Quinnen Williams, Quinnen Williams was supposed to be this guy who was going to basically destroy Trevor Lawrence. Not one sack all game. So, I mean, for me, I rely on what Clemson has shown, and we'll see what happens. Honestly, if you're looking at it, I believe that Clemson, Ohio State, the winner of that game, if it's number 2 versus number 3, which I believe it will be, I think the winner of that game is your national champion, whoever it is. I really do. I think both teams can stop LSU. They seem to be getting worse on defense, and whoever the 4th team in the nation is, I don't know, but we'll see.